Hey guys, this is just a quick video response to Metal Psalm's question 2 for evolution believers. He asks,
if life can happen without any interference from an intelligence, why can't we create life in the lab?
Okay, maybe you didn't get to that, but he asked, if life can happen without any intelligence guiding the process, why can't we replicate it in a lab? A couple points here. First of all, evolution is not abiogenesis. Okay? Evolution is, properly understood, the variation in allele frequencies in populations suffering environmental attrition. In other words, it is a study of the way that genes in organisms, in populations I should say, rather than organisms, change over time to provide us diversification of life. It is not a lot of things. It's not the Big Bang Theory, it's not atheism, and it's not abiogenesis either. So, however, to answer your question, why, if abiogenesis could occur, are we unable to duplicate it in a lab? Well, let me just pose a couple other questions first. Let me generalize that statement. Let me say, if X can occur, why are we unable to duplicate it in a lab? Well, let's talk about some things that could be X. If sustained thermonuclear fusion can occur, which we know it does occur in the Sun, why are we unable to duplicate it in the lab? Let's take another process. Or better yet, let's go back 150 years. Let's say I'm a scientist in 1850 and someone asks me, if powered flight is possible, why can't you duplicate it in a lab? Is what I am able to do as a scientist in 1850 any indication of what is or is not possible? Well, no, because just a few short decades later we achieved powered flight. And I sincerely hope that in a few short decades from now we'll achieve sustained nuclear fusion in the lab. So, I think the main point is that what we as a species in the year 2009 can and cannot do with our level of advancement is no indication of what is and is not possible, you know? 100 years ago, we wouldn't have been able to do so many things that we do now. I mean, you know, no computers, no powered flight. Well, I guess we had powered flight 100 years ago, but no orbital flight. You know, no superhighways, no TVs, so many things that we could not do then. But that was no indication that they weren't possible. And likewise, the fact that we can't do something now is no indication that it's not possible. But let me just drive this point home even more. Earth is but one planet orbiting our Sun. It is one of many planets. In fact, there are hundreds of millions of things going around our Sun, and we classify several of them as planets. And on several of them, you have, or had at some time in the past, liquid water. You know, on Mars, they've taken the evidence from the surveyors that there has been liquid water flowing as little as this past decade. In many of the Jovian moons, the moons of Saturn, there's evidence to indicate that underneath their frozen surfaces there are oceans. So, in just one star, okay, around just one star, you have multiple worlds with conditions right for Earth-type life to come into being. And furthermore, or at least the original Earth-type life, the original very primitive cells. Now, furthermore, our Sun is just one of hundreds of billions of stars in our galaxy, and our Sun is relatively young. It's probably less than 5 billion years old. There's the other stars in our galaxy. There are stars with the age of the universe is nearly 3 times that. And you're talking about hundreds of billions of stars. How many planets does that translate into? Just one galaxy, and there are hundreds of billions of galaxies, if not more. So the fact that we have not, in the 50 or so years that we've been trying, let's say the Miller experiments were the first real attempts in this direction, they were about 50 years ago, the fact that we have not, as one species, comparatively advanced to what we were 300 years ago, but comparatively primitive to what we will be, or at least what I hope we will be in 300 years, the fact that we have not duplicated something that we think has occurred that we know for sure has occurred only once in billions of years, on hundreds of billions of trillions of planets in the universe. We know it's occurred once. Could have occurred more times to be sure. But just to comprehend the vastness of the space involved and the time involved, and to then say that 50 years of half-hearted attempts by one not very advanced species on one planet has not replicated those results? No. Sorry. We haven't replicated sustained fusion either, yet one only has to look to the sky to figure out that that's a possibility. So, yeah, let's recap. 1, evolution is not abiogenesis. And 2, our inability at this moment in our advancement to replicate a given effect in the laboratory does not mean that it could never have occurred, and it certainly does not mean, that goes double, let's say, for abiogenesis, granted the sheer number of the sheer trillions and trillions of planets that it could have occurred on over the sheer billions of years that the process had to occur. So, there you have it.